First message showed up on a Tuesday when the Heat had already made a case against ambition. I run early, Austin early, before the sun remembers it's a tyrant, and cut the same loop most days, past the taco truck that smells like a promise, onto the boardwalk that lets you believe the river belongs to you, then back along the crushed granite where the bats sleep under the bridge. I count breaths until the world stops insisting on itself. Halfway up the small hill by the Mopac footbridge, a line of chalk curved across the path like a grin. Under it, in block letters, "If you're here, good job," and an arrow pointing up. I laughed out loud. It wasn't funny, it was generous. I made it to the top because a stranger had expected me to. The next morning the chalk was still there, smudged but legible. I left my own line on the way back, white on gray. Hills lie. Thanks for the help. Two loop. I figured that was it. Two ships passing, two chalk lines passing. And then the following day, a new message appeared just past the mile marker where the gravel loosens. The bench near the pecan tree. Shakishko, best shade. Also, water fountains at 1 point, 2 and 3.8. Night crew, night crew. I pictured headlamps and playlists that forgive. I started spotting their evidence everywhere. A thin blue streak along a route that likes to trip egos, a tiny star next to a pothole, an arrow where the boardwalk seam rises after a dry spell. My own messages got practical in return. Left side of boardwalk catches breeze. The trash can by the dog park doesn't pretend. Mopac stares. Confidence builder, bring your lungs. We never said names. We never said times. A chalk handshake was enough. August advanced. The heat index did bicep curls. One morning I found a chalk circle around a patch of newly broken glass with "Nope" written beside it, like an incantation. And 2 days later, a different color chalk labeled a cooler tucked under the bridge. Free ice water. Share, replenish if you can. A polite miracle in a blue Coleman. I had the exact right number of singles to contribute a 24-pack on my way home. Night crew left a thank you the next morning that somehow made me want to do it again. Chalk changed the way the loop felt. It used to be my hour to disappear. Now it was my hour to belong. I started carrying a stump of yellow in the tiny pocket by my keys. Night crew had green and blue. I liked the way the colors looked when they overlapped like sentences agreeing. Clues about each other snuck into the margins, the way handwriting tells more than content. Night crew left little tick marks before steeper turns like a drummer counting in. I added micro-weather notes. Headwind here at 15, sun hits this turn first. One morning there was a perfect tiny sketch of a bat under "See You Tonight," and I grinned like a kid at recess. We started leaving assignments that were really invitations. Count how many hats you see that are regrets. Answer, many. Name this hill something ridiculous so it can't win. We christened it the petition because it always wanted signatures. Run one song without checking your watch. Harder than it should be, worth it. The first time I saw Night Crew's actual silhouette, I almost pretended I hadn't. It was a Thursday, midnight-ish by the river's watch, and I'd failed to sleep through the heat. I told myself I was going out to walk, not run, and wore the kind of shirt that has already retired. Near the boathouse, a thin beam of light skimmed the path ahead like someone warning the darkness gently. A person ran into the edge of my chalk world from the far side. Headlamp tilted down, cadence smooth as patience. They slowed at a corner, drew a quick line and a carry with practiced motion, then kept going without breaking the evening's grammar. I could have said something, I didn't. The ruleless magic of the chalk felt fragile. I passed the carrette a minute later and found "Step down here" written beside the lip, where the boardwalk meets the dirt, which I've stubbed my toe on 10 times. I obeyed like I knew how to follow directions. We evolved into a shared project without scheduling it. Night crew marked "Good Morning" bench in green. I left "Good Night River" in yellow where the boardwalk ends. They listed "Water here" with a star. I added "Shade" at 28 on the return. We mapped a city with the cheap language of schoolyards. Then the city took a pressure washer to the path. September arrives pretending to fix all sins. On a Monday, the chalk vanished in a blunt act of civic pride. The hill lay blank and honest. The petition went unnamed. The pothole lost its star and remembered its purpose. I felt irrationally bereaved. I carried the yellow nub and had nothing to say to the granite. 2 silent days later, night crew figured out an answer I should have guessed. There's a low cinder block utility box near the stairs up to Mopac, the kind city crews use to lecture electricity. On its left side, faint under old stickers and sun fade, was a small square of blue painter's tape with a number. 1, 2 feet to the right, 2. By the top, 3 and a tiny arrow that led my eye to a barely noticeable green mark on the underside of the railing. Breathe now. I laughed quietly and did as told. That night I came back with my own tape, yellow, and posted 4 at the top of the hill, with a stripe under it, and walk if you want. Still counts. The tape lived a week before weather scolded it. We re-upped without comment. Around then, my right knee started muttering. Age, shoes, hubris. I bargained with it like a union rep. Night crew noticed, because chalk has a way of telling on you, and wrote skip the stairs this week, do the bridge swing with a green arrow toward a small ramp I'd been ignoring. The line contained both permission and instruction. I obeyed. I rested a day without feeling like failure was a personality. Our chalk world bled into the rest of life, lightly. I found myself leaving tiny notes in other places I passed through. Door sticks, lift then, push on the community center's supply closet. Microwave starts at 33. Go figure on a post-it above the kitchen counter. Left sink is the good sink in the shared restroom we all pretend to tolerate. I started seeing the city as a machine you could tune, if only by half a degree. An unplanned test arrived in October when a storm, the non-metaphorical kind, I promise no umbrellas, overperformed, and the river climbed up to remind us of scale. The path closed for 2 days. The boardwalk wore caution tape the color of a sheriff's vest. I walked the long way around the detours with everyone else and felt the city change its rhythm in a way you can't oppose. On the utility box near the stairs, the blue tape had washed away, but a faint chalk ghost remained. Back soon. It felt like both a promise from the river and from the person who had written to me in colors. When the water receded, the loop reopened with a new seam in the boardwalk and a patch of mud that needed to tell its story. I ran slow and grateful. At the top of the hill, green. You made it back. So did I. I didn't know I'd needed those exact words until I read them. A week later, the city held one of those open streets mornings where they close a segment of road and pretend we always use it for joy. The flyer called it a pop-up chalk parade. A woman with a neon vest flipped open bins of chalk the size of pillowcases. Kids attacked the asphalt like it had insulted their color choices. I walked the route scanning for familiar handwriting, ridiculous and certain, until I spotted it near a vendor tent. Careful block letters, a tiny arrow, a star. The message said, run like a person who had coffee, which is exactly the sort of wisdom night crew traffics in. I stood chalk in hand, paralyzed by the fact that the person I'd been writing to for months probably stood within 10 feet. Which one? The man bending to tie a shoe? The woman with the hair in a bandana drawing a perfect bat? The teenager pretending not to care that her dad was kneeling to color? I didn't want the magic to crack under the weight of an introduction. My compromise was a yellow line next to their green sentence, or like a person who will have pancakes after. As I wrote, a hand appeared beside mine, blue chalk smudged on knuckles, and added a small yes with a star. We didn't look up right away. We both drew a quick outline of a sneaker and laughed at how bad at art we were. When we finally lifted our heads, the face in front of me looked exactly like a person who runs when the city is asleep and fixes small problems with the generosity of a note, tired and bright, awake in the precise way the body learns when it has a job, chalk dust on cheekbone like a badge. We managed hello. It felt huge and ordinary at the same time. I won't perform the conversation for you. It had the good awkwardness of a real thing, a name, another name, a fact about schedules, a joke about the petition and how it behaved in North Wind. We both admitted to having debates with our own knees. Someone handed us free iced coffee. We did not pretend to refuse. We set a boundary I didn't know I wanted. Keep the trail mostly chalk and mostly ours. Meet for pancakes afterward when geography permits. That became the routine. Sunday pancakes written small and yellow near the bottom of the ramp if I could make it. A green OK near the water fountain if they could. Sometimes we missed. Sometimes the city ate the chalk too fast. Sometimes we showed up chalkless and still found each other by the way two people scan a room expecting to be found. The rest of it built itself the way the best habits do. We carried extra waters during heat advisories and pretended not to be heroes. We texted once when the path lights went out and walked together with our phone flashlights down because you can be careful and romantic at the same time. We rerouted after a small injury and added a detour past the mural with the horse that looked surprised to be in Austin. We gave it a high five every time and never admitted we were superstitious. I learned the night crew name wasn't a crew at all, just one person who liked how plural generosity feels. They learned I can't run past a dropped glove without wondering about its spouse. We met each other's friends accidentally. The guy from the taco truck who has opinions about cilantro. The woman who runs with her dog who somehow knows everyone's kid's birthday. We washed up at the same community workday, marking storm drains with drains to river stencils, and I had the pleasant shock of realizing that of course the chalk person shows up with paint when the city asks. We finally did a race together in December, which is to say we both registered, did not run side by side, we are respectful of bodies and pace, and agreed to meet afterward by the table with the bananas. The course had a hill we didn't know and a downhill we couldn't deserve, and three different bands all named after weather. At the finish line, we found each other faster than people ought to be able to in a crowd, which is either fate or just practice. We still haven't carved anything big into stone. We have chalk. It suits us. We've written the small things that make days easier. Left side dries first. Bench 2 has the good view. If you're tired, walk. Still a run. Once, after a week where everything outside the trail was loud, I found a green message by the water fountain. Sit here for a minute if you want. I did. The minute got bigger and kinder. I took it with me. When the city cleans the path now, I don't mind. It's proof that we get to write it again. If you go early, you might see a thin yellow line before the hill, a green star at the top, and two tiny initials tucked into the corner, because it's okay to take credit for a kindness once in a while. You might watch a stranger stop, read, and keep going with better posture. You might think nothing of it, or you might feel the loop pull you in, one breath another, then one more you didn't think you had, because somebody you'll meet later decided to tell you the truth in chalk. If you're here, good job.